Welcome to another edition of Smart Chat here on YouTube.com. And again, thank you for subscribing. Don't forget to like, share, favorite this video, and check out my other channel. That's the Tom Brand 1. It's a channel about comedy, pranks, yada yada, skits. I think it's funny. But anyway, the Brooklyn Nets, this past week, they retired Jason Kidd's number. Jason Kidd, who last year played with the Knicks, is now the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. And I made a video about this when the news first broke, and I'll link that video here, my thoughts on Jason Kidd. But nonetheless, Jason Kidd's number retired. He's the new head coach, and I thought it would be kind of fitting to give you my predictions, or rather my preview of the Brooklyn Nets for this coming year. If you backtrack, PJ Carlesimo took over, helped earn the Brooklyn Nets the 4th seed, and they were shooed away, gone, courtesy of the Chicago Bulls with a Game 7 in Brooklyn. Changes were needed undoubtedly, and Prokhorov said that Billy King needs to make the changes. So what did the Nets do in this offseason? They did a few things. They brought in future Hall of Famers Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce from Boston. It kind of seems that the Celtics wanted to rebuild, and they kind of want to rebuild and get rid of your two oldest players for some young talent. But in essence, what it really was, it was just pretty much a salary dump. The Nets also did get back Jason Terry in that trade, and it was kind of interesting. The story went that if Paul Pierce opted out of his contract with Boston at the end of last year, this past offseason, Garnett would retire. Pierce, in essence, what he did is he had to convince Kevin Garnett to give it, one more go in a new city, and that is Brooklyn. The next big change obviously came, like I mentioned before, with Jason Kidd, who retired after the season with the New York Knicks, decided to become the Nets head coach. Not decided, but was given the job by Nets management. And it's interesting, no coaching experience prior. Like I mentioned before, there could have been better options for this, in my opinion, than Jason Kidd. But what, and I give the Nets credit, what they did, for Jason Kidd as coach, they hired Lawrence Frank as the assistant coach, which, let's face it, it seems like, at least unofficially on paper, Lawrence Frank is the coach, and Jason Kidd will be his understudy, even though we know, how it really is on paper. Another big acquisition that the Brooklyn Nets made, Andrei Korolenko. Versatile forward who, last played with the Minnesota Timberwolves last season. The rumor was that the San Antonio Spurs also wanted Korolenko, whose nickname is AK-47, but he signed with less money and opted to play with his comrade Deron Williams and Prokhorov, fellow countryman. Next, three massive talents for the Nets. Maybe four with, if you count Terry. All brought in during the offseason. A coach who went 13 who went actually 35-19, was fired for a newly retired player in Jason Kidd. Zero experience. At least management kept 3 All-Stars in the starting lineup: Deron Williams, Joe Johnson, and Brook Lopez. Safe to say that Prokhorov does not tolerate underachieving. Why would you? You're the owner. You want your team to succeed. He will be, let's face it, spending an awful lot in luxury tax to prove so, because of these acquisitions that he makes. Projected starting 5 right now, I feel, based on what we have: Deron Williams at point guard, shooting guard Joe Johnson, small forward Paul Pierce, power forward Kevin Garnett, center Brook Lopez. Key reserves for our Brooklyn Nets, and I am a Net fan. It just, again, I am a little bit worried about the upcoming season. Will the chemistry flow? Will it flow for us? Key reserves: Korolenko, Bloch, Jason Terry, Reggie Evans, Sean Livingston, Allen Anderson, Plumlee. Front court: Reggie Evans, great season he had. Averaging 11 points per game and agitating every single opposing player. But he and Gerald Wallace were not enough to lead Brooklyn to anything meaningful. Statistically, Paul Pierce is 36, Garnett 37. They didn't miss a beat last season. Paul Pierce averaged 18 points. Garnett 14 points. And can still influence the game. The opposing players a little bit ruffle their feathers from time to time, especially on both ends. Especially on defense with Brooklyn. This is where it will help them. Ranked 23rd in opponents' field goal percentage last year. And with proper rest, you favor for Garnett and Pierce. They both can help an offense that came in 17th in field goal percentage. Again, the unit is loaded that we have. This team is stacked with talent, albeit aging. As far as coaching, Jason Kidd is the biggest wild card in Brooklyn's title hopes. Can he coach? Who knows? But again, Lawrence Frank hiring was a good move as far as the assistant coach. NBA coming up. We're in the preseason. I'm eager for basketball to start. You gotta admit that Brooklyn is now part of the conversation as far as being an elite team. Maybe even better, one would argue. Brooklyn Nets is New York's town, as opposed to the Knicks being the talked about team here. Making the Atlantic Division title, in my opinion, is a reasonable goal. Making the NBA Finals is, I feel, as well reasonable. Hopefully, Prokhorov's financial gamble will really pay dividends. But as a Net fan, one of the key points that I worry about is the coaching and the health of Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. So let me know what some of your thoughts are. And until next time, later, Marks.